Now, be very careful. Make sure that you do not cross the 15 years of age while you are still employed somewhere or working in a job. And by the way, if you didn't know, there is a very great difference between a job and a work. A job is that what you trained for when you went to college or whatever the place, but job, that the purpose you were created for. So when you understand those two discrepancies, there is a job and there is a work. So make sure that you do not cross 15 years while you're still in your job. And for God's sake, if you're still on that, I know right now you should be thinking about quitting it and doing something for your sake. And by the way, before I even go on this board and I share with you, by the way, I have a very nice information that I've prepared. Before I even go back there, see, I have to let you know one thing. The moment you cross the 15th year of being employed, and some of you who are employed right now, you can attest to this, okay? The moment you cross the 15 years of age, what I mean by this is that you've been employed for the last 15 years. The moment you cross that age, you tend to develop a certain thing called the dependency mentality. You hardly even become a creator. You become an individual who, at your 40, at your 50, at your 60, you're still applying for a job. You're still starting with, I beg to write for an application. You're still having that kind of a mentality. And let me tell you the dangerous part of that. Oh, come on. Before I even tell you that, by the way, if you're watching for the first time, go ahead and like the video and make sure that you subscribe for you to be notified whenever I upload. And you could view. Let's get to the business. And that point, I have not forget about it. I'm going to share with you. Let's go ahead and I'll show you something as far as the job is concerned. See, the moment you graduate, let's say from your college, or maybe let's say you've never went to a college or something of sort, you just got the job for the first time. The very first 5 years of your job, that's the year 1 all the way to year 5. At this particular point, anyone and everyone in life, you have to work for somebody in one way or the other. I've ever worked about for somebody in one way or the other. There was a time I was telling you guys I used to be a tutor somewhere, teaching and what have you. I have never seen somebody who just born and get into, no, at one point in your life, you have to work for somebody. So the point is, from the first year all the way to 5 years, this is time now you start looking for the stability. You're fresh out of college, you're looking for a job to pay back your loan, or maybe you're looking forward into starting a family, you need a job, you're probably out of your family's home, you need to pay your bills, electricity, water, clothing, food, all those kind of things, okay? At that particular point, we don't really expect much from you, just for the sake of the stability. You're learning along the way, you're creating the social network, socioeconomic network here and there, somebody who is a what, who does where, all those connections. The very first 5 years, you're allowed to do that, all right? You're allowed to actually become stable, actualize with people, socialize with people rather, go ahead, create the networking, the learning and what have you. At this particular point is when you're supposed to learn more about the financial stability, financial management, what is a financial freedom, how can I attain it, what is my goal, what is my vision, what is my dream, what do I want to get, how much am I earning, how much am I using in terms of the recurrent expenditure, all those kind of things. The very first 5 months or other years, that's when you start doing one or two kind of things. When I come here, I talk about treasury bonds, you develop an interest, you want to start a business. What do I need to start a business? Where do I go? How do I start it? How much do I need? How do I run a business? What are customers? At this particular period of time, you need to learn and learn and learn. But now the problem that most of the people do is that the moment you get a job, it's time now to throw parties, making yourself happy, going for the road trips, telling your body thank you. That's what they say, quote unquote, moving from places to places, throwing parties and all those kind of things. And in that process, guess what happens? Now, you tend to gain a certain character and a habit that actually becomes very toxic when it comes to your finances. At that particular point, we really don't talk much about that. But anyway, the moment now you clock the 6th year all the way to the 10th year of employment. At this particular point is where now you start to do investments. Guess what? You did the learning on the 1 to 5 years. Now, your 6th year and above, now you start actualizing that thing that you can be able to make. Now, assuming that maybe you were employed at 25, for God's sake, if you're lucky enough to be employed at that particular age, or maybe you got the employment at age talk of 30, now you're at your 36, you're 37. At this particular point, we already regard you as an adult. We already regard you as an individual who can make decisions by their own. Probably you have a family on board and all those kind of things. So therefore, the point is this: you've already determined how much is your budget, your recurrent expenditure. Now okay, fine, I earn 30,000, I earn 50,000, I earn 100,000, 200. Now I'm supposed to set aside 30,000 because I need an X amount of money, say 400, for me to start, let's say, a water refill business, or for me to start, let's say, something like, you get what I'm saying? So you already know what you need when you're at this particular point. So by the way, we can further subdivide the 5th year. So let's say from the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd years, you learn. For the third, for the fourth and the fifth year, at this particular point, now you focus on the accumulation. Accumulation here to store the money is what you guys call savings. Now, the moment you clock your sixth year, you get yourself into investments. At this particular point, investments can be variety of the things that I usually talk about here. So you can go check my videos. Now, you can also get yourself into the businesses. Now, this is when now you start building yourself. Is now when you start asking yourself. This is now when the reality starts to kick in. And I always tell people, by the way, the moment you get employed and the moment they send you that letter and they tell you, hey, guess what? This is the contract. Go ahead and sign it. What you're supposed to sign again is what you're supposed to do immediately after that is writing a resignation letter and keeping it for yourself, just in case one day you're going to surrender that thing. You know, one thing, it's always good to prepare your mind like you can get fired at any given moment. All right. So the point is this now, the moment you clock these years, go ahead and start investing. Okay. And the point here is to now start creating an investment, which is now a passive income. Okay. For example, let's say you're earning 50,000 a month. Now, the point here is that you want to create something extra that is earning you amount that is equivalent to these 50,000 that you're earning each and every month. You get what I'm saying? See, there is that money that you get from the active income, your job, and now you're creating something extra that we call the passive income to elevate it to a point whereby it is at par. Okay. Now you can start a business like this. Again, when you're starting a business, because you've already gathered much of the information, I may not be available. I'm employed from, let's say, from 8 to 5. Let's say maybe I can employ somebody. I'm getting myself into a business that I'm understanding it. At this particular point, all the way from 1 all the way to 10 years, you're allowed to make a couple of mistakes here and there. And that's why if you meet somebody who have been employed for the last 10 years, they tell you, oh my goodness, I got myself into farming, I got myself into the transport or logistics industry, I got myself into production, I got myself into value addition and all those kind of things. So you are allowed to do exactly all those kind of things. You're gathering the experience, you're gathering the information as far as the investments are concerned. So again, at this particular point is when you're supposed to incorporate what we call the sacrifices and also the denials, the delayed gratification. This is the time now you know, hey, guess what? I may be able to buy a car maybe worth 3 million, but I can buy 1.5 million. The other 1.5 million, maybe I can buy a property somewhere, and maybe I can buy an asset that is generating cash flow. Maybe I can go ahead and put this money into a certain business that can actually, maybe I can get into the importation, maybe I can get, see, the moment you're doing exactly that, you're delaying the gratification. People are asking you, hey, guess what? Hey, come on, you've been employed for the last 7 years, 6 years, 8 years, but you do not even have a car that maybe is quite elegant and all those kind of things. You tell them, hey, you just relax. Wait, you just wait. You're going to see what is going to happen. And sometimes you don't even need to explain to anybody what you're going on out there. Sometimes it's not even good to share what exactly you're doing out there. So at this particular point, you're doing much of the things. Now, let's go to the magic age, which is now, or the magic period of which is 15 years. Now, the moment you clock 15 years, or rather the 11th year of employment, all the way to 15 years, at this particular point, guess what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to be quitting thoughts are crossing your mind. That's what you're supposed to understand. At this particular point, understand one thing. Some people probably have graduated, they're better than you. Understand that there is the dynamics changes as far as that industry is concerned. Maybe probably if you are in an IT, somebody is graduating with better skills than you are. At this particular point, understand the competition is a bit stiff and high, and you can get fired or retrenched, however they call it, at any given moment. And now ask yourself, at this particular point of 15 years of employment, assuming that you are employed at 25, and you are now at 40, assuming that you're employed at 30, now you're at 45. Now the question is this. Now, you see, let me show you one thing. Now, let's go to the question that I was telling you. The moment you cross the 15th year of employment, at this particular point, the life is already aware that you have a lot of things to do. Probably if you're at your 55 or 45 rather, at this particular point, you already have some kids in high school. Probably some of your kids are joining university. I mean, a lot of bills are actually happening at this particular point, especially from 40 all the way to 55. You have a lot of bills to pay. You have some university fees to pay. You have some insurance to pay. You are thinking about having your own home. At this particular point, if you didn't plan yourself backward, you tend to develop anxiety. And at this particular age, this is when you realize one thing. You don't even have time to quit. You don't even have time to maybe start a new thing if you never started anything. This time now you start checking off the parties that you are going out there. And if you try to save, you cannot be able to do so. Probably you have 5 kids, 7 kids, 10 kids, and all those kind of things. And that's why you find when you cross this 15th year of employment, you come to a point where you say it's a game of no return. You either push it until you go ahead and retire, or you decide one decision, I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna do something. Because when I was actually attached before I graduated from my university, I interacted with a guy who has been employed, or who was employed by then, he's now retired, over 30 years. And you know what he told me as we were going for, because you see, I was partnered with sort of a supervisor or something. Okay, this issue of university, you guys know it, eh? And as we go to those field and researches and what have you, the guy was telling me, you know what, Joseph, you know, you have an opportunity right now. See, I have been employed for over 30 years. Eh? In 3 years' time, I'm going to retire. And I am telling you, good Joseph, by then I never used to be good Joseph. I used to be Joseph, yeah? Now, see, you used to tell me, at this particular point, I have never invested. I know nothing about investment. Well, sure, I did build myself a home. I have a home somewhere. But guess what? That home does not generate any income. I need to eat, I need to drink. The only thing that I'm expecting is just a pension that will come. I think it will be over like 3.5 million or something of so. I have never invested. I do not even know what I should do. By the way, I thought that, hey, you're going to be employed forever. But now, it's a reality. I got served by that letter. I'm about to retire in 3 years' time. I don't know. So once you get into this employment, now is him telling me, once you get in this employment, try to plan yourself as early as you can. You know what? Up to date, we still interact with that guy. And you know what? He retired. It is true. The money that he got, well, he had a piece of land just next to where he has built a home. He just put some few units of, one bedroom that he's leasing out and what have you. So the point is this: the moment you cross that year, that's the time you realize there is no time to try things. You actually, it is like realizing it's at the evening at around 1 p.m. or rather not 1 p.m. brother, but at 7 p.m. and you're about to grab your supper. That particular point you run at left and right and all those kind of things. So it is good to make sure by the time you're clocking this, because averagely, honestly speaking, averagely, people get employed for 35 years in their life. Let's say 30, let's talk of 30, averagely. 30 years of life, okay? Now, 30 years of life, you're already now at half of it. Now, at this particular half, either you decide I'm going to make a decision when I'm at half of it, or the moment you test the second half, it becomes very hard for you. So at this particular point, you must be having the quitting thoughts. Okay. Number two, passive income is now at par with that what you get each and every month from your active income. All right. That's what you're supposed to do. The other thing is that if you're not quitted yet, if you're not quitted, now see, I did not say if you now are 15 years now you quit. See, come on, guys. Maybe I should say this in form of a disclaimer. I'm not saying now because you've clocked. I'm not saying now because you've been employed for the last 20 years now you go quit your job. No, come on. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what you're supposed to do, for God's sake. Go think about these things that I'm talking about. Go ahead and put some things to do in your income. I mean, rather in your passive income and what have you. Go and invest and do all those kind of things. For example, by the way, I made that video. Somebody at 55 called me and told me, good Joseph, I only have 5 years to what do you call it, to retire. And I want you to show me what I can be able to do for the next 5 years. Because I am seeing me relying on my kids, and that is the worst thing that you can ever do. So anyway, guys, guess what? That is exactly what you do way before you clock your 15th year on your job. Because remember one thing and never forget, nobody employs you to be wealthy or rich, and we do not have any track record of being employed somewhere actually making anybody rich. It is you relying on that what you get at the end of the month, week or day, whichever the time that you get paid. You do use your own brain, and by God's grace you create your own wealth and be able to achieve what you call the financial freedom at the end of this information. So guess what, guys? That marks the end of my video, but never forget, you can always pick that number of mine from the description of this specific video. Let's talk business. Let's talk about investment. That is what we do. And don't forget one thing, like the video, comment down below there, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure that you share the video if you're in a position to. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.